Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Giglio, and this is another edition of the weekly video message. And I have a special guest star with me, and that is Mr. Jeff Wright. So, Jeff, you want to introduce yourself to the audience out there?
Absolutely. As Greg said, I'm Jeff Wright. I'm an assistant principal here at Homestead High School, and I am in charge of the guidance and scheduling portion of the work that we do as administrators. I work with a number of really talented people. We have 4 guidance counselors, and they are divided by alpha, as you know. Your student's guidance counselor will be attached with their last name. We have a data tech who works with all the data that we have to make schedules and help students, as well as a registrar who really works with our transcripts and graduation for our students. You know, this is a really busy time in the scheduling department because, as you know, your students are selecting classes and they are submitting those requests to us by the 8th, next Tuesday. We take those requests and then we start to look at how many classes we need to meet the requests as best we can. We work through that process and then as we go along, we send out a course. It's a course verification is sent to all students in the beginning of April. And you have a few days to look that over to make sure that what you requested is reflected in the courses that we've given you. And if you have any changes, you send that back to us. Once we have those course changes in, then we start really creating the classes that are going to exist for the 22-23 school year. And we start creating sections, as we call them. It's really important that your student does view the videos that were posted back on February 6th. The teachers posted videos about all of their classes. There was Q&A that they had on the 15th and the 18th of February. They presented their classes and the students watched a lot of those online. Teachers are available right now. They want you to know about your classes and what they're getting into and what they can expect, what skills they need to be successful. Our counselors are all available to answer questions and to counsel your students on the choices of the classes that they make. So as we go across this March, April, and May timeframe, again, we are getting the course requests from the students. We are putting them into our system and starting to create the classes. We get the final suggestion or request back from you once that you make any changes for your student, and then we start forming the classes in May. Your students won't see their class schedule until August. And the reason for that is because we have to match all the courses, all the sections with the teachers that we have and make those sections as universally available as we can. For example, there are classes called singletons or doubletons where there's 1 or 2 sections of that class. And we have to be careful to place those so that students can access those if they also want to see, take other classes. So it's a complex process of putting the teachers, the students, and the class times all together. And that goes on across the summer as well. Your students will get their final schedule, their actual class schedule in August when they return. The guidance counselors held these in, so on the 1st, your students were able to listen to the guidance counselors talk about selecting classes. On the 2nd and the 4th of this week, they met with students and were available to meet with students and answer any questions that they had. So these are all the processes that we've put in place to help your students pick the best schedule that they can. One thing I need to remind you is that you've selected classes and made requests, and we fill them as best we can. And we do a pretty good job of that, but it's very possible that you'll get your alternate in the schedule as well, because we do have limitations in the number of classes we can offer and the number of students that we can enter in a particular subject. That's controlled by budget, and that's controlled by just the number of teachers that we have, frankly. I get the question every year, can't you just add 1 more class? Well, no, we can't. We don't have enough teachers, or we don't have enough budget to do that in every instance. If you have questions, though, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my name is Jeff Wright, and that's spelled Geoff, but Jeff Wright, and my email is on the website. You're welcome to email me at any time. My phone number is there as well, and you can call me here at Homestead. Be happy to work with you on that. If you have any questions, again, the guidance counselors are available. I'm available, and we look forward to starting a new year next year, 22-23.
Absolutely. Thank you. I actually put up the question. There's a question earlier that someone had sent that actually you covered everything in. So I wanted to make sure that I put it up there so that people saw that we answered their question. But this really is a long and detailed process. It is one where we seek a lot of input. We put a lot of information out there. Sometimes it may feel like an overwhelming amount of information, but it's there to try and help you make some of those decisions. But like you said, anybody's available. You can talk to admin, you can talk to counselors, you can talk to teachers. Everything's on the website. If you want to go into the guidance department, you'll find all the presentations, all those things there. So it really is a long process because it's an important process. It really is what drives our entire year. So thank you for that. You also brought up the 7-period day. There's a question later on in the presentation that I'm going to answer for that as well too. So I'll save that one for a little bit later.
Let me emphasize what you just said, Greg. On our website, the guidance portion of that website is really detailed. I mean, there's all of the course mapping for graduation requirements, college entrance requirements. There's so much information there that I urge you to go there and just explore and find things that you need. That is a very, very strong resource for us. The other thing I would mention, especially for our upper grades, is we do have a college and career center. Our college and career counselor is Shay Bellamy, and you can make appointments with her or send her questions about college selection, about for information on colleges, and she is available. She is dedicated to students getting to college. So that is another resource we have in the guidance department. I forgot to mention her name as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So before I let you go, anything else you want folks out there to know about or to look at or understand?
No, it is, as you said, the classes and our students drive the whole community. That's why we're here. So we really come here to help your student. Don't hesitate to reach out. Please reach out whenever you have a concern or a problem. And I would also add that we have a lot of resources that are beyond just the academic. We have counseling resources, we have community resources, we have lots of different things we can help students with when problems come up, because we work with students a lot. So we have lots of different opportunities to help them.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. I'm going to let you go while I move on with the rest of the presentation, but thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the stuff that you guys have been doing and all the good work that the counselors have been doing. So really appreciate everyone's hard work.
Thank you.
All right, take care. So again, as you saw, Jeff answered that first question there, but this video is actually a combination of 2 weeks. You remember I got a few questions right before the break, then a few after. So put them together. So this was kind of for last February 18th, as well as for Friday, March 4th here. So we had some shout outs and recognitions. We had 2 for Mallory Lance, who is our athletic director. So the first one was for Mallory and for David Dower. David is our swim coach. The 2 of them really, this shout out goes to them for helping getting the swim team going this year, even though the team was down to 1 coach. This has been a difficult year in terms of getting coaches because of the pandemic. People aren't always as interested. So it was really been a struggle to try and get some coaches, but David and Mallory did a great job making sure our swim team was up and running and going. So we're fully staffed now, so we're doing well. And then Mallory also had another one for being incredibly responsive. And this person loves all the photos and clips on the athletics Instagram account. Thank you for spotlighting our student athletes and encouraging them in so many fun ways. Another one that was a general shout out to all the teachers and staff for all they do. The older I get, the more I see and believe a lot goes unrecognized as to the dedication of many of these teachers and staff. So thank you for those kind words. We had a second page of shout outs. So one was for Matt Guevara, no stranger to this page. He's been getting a lot of shout outs this year. He is a math teacher and for being an awesome teacher and being green on his way to and from school. And he takes a train and then he also rides his bike. So you can often see him pedaling in the early morning or the evening going to and from school. And there was also a general thank you to the food service staff for getting the students through the lines quickly. We all appreciate you. They had been operating down a person or two. They had a couple of injuries and illnesses that took them down for a while there, but they really did a lot of great work. But I'm also thankful for the hard work that they do, the subs that we've had. And we've actually even had a couple of administrators jumping in there and doing some checkout there. So thank you for everyone's help on that one. So nice round of shout outs. I messed something up here. What did I do? Oh, so this goes down to our questions and concerns right here. So there was a one about this kind of, I think came from stuff before about saying there are parents out there who want to volunteer and they're not sure how to do it or there isn't opportunities to do it. And I will admit that having getting opportunities for parents to volunteer is a much more difficult prospect than when you do it at the elementary or middle school. But there are several groups within our organization here that are looking for places for you to become a volunteer if you'd like to. So our PTSA, they are always looking for volunteers to help at events and activities. As a matter of fact, they put one out about the multicultural event that's happening on April 1st. There's a lot of interesting ways that parents can get involved in terms of representing your own culture or others helping represent other people's cultures at an event that's going to be an evening event on the first there that's going to be put together by the ASB and by PTSA. So that's a great place to get started. Our boosters clubs are always looking for and needing volunteers. Now, a booster club could be the music boosters, or say cheer boosters, or football boosters, or athletic boosters. There's, obviously might be specific to what your student is doing. But they always need volunteers to run, events at meets, or help out at events, or to sell stuff, or to help work with a team. That's a place where if you're part of a boosters club, you can definitely do stuff, or you can ask the boosters club to help out there too. In this question, they would say, hey, can we work in the library or in classrooms? And that's not places where we tend to put parent volunteers. There's a lot of reasons why. Part of it is the level of help that's needed at that high school is pretty difficult. It's not as easy as teaching the ABCs or addition, subtraction, and it gets very high level in terms of some of the conversations in classes. So we need some very specific help in those regards. We also, to get there and do those, there's a very specific level of process you have to go through in terms of being cleared by the sheriff's department. We run a fingerprint and background check. You have to go through TB testing. So it's maybe not always worth it to some people to do those things. But there are other places where we allow parents on campus to do, again, some of these PTSA events. We've done things where we have parent tutors working with some of our students during mandatory tutorial time on Wednesdays and Fridays. But if you have a thought, or if hey, I'd like to help out doing this, or is there a person I can contact that where I can join in and volunteer for whatever, if you haven't seen it or haven't heard of it, just email me and I'll be happy to try and connect you with the appropriate person. Here was that question I referred to a little bit ago that Jeff was just responding to. Someone had actually mentioned, it was a statement, not a question. Either let everyone take 7 periods or everyone takes only 6. It doesn't seem right that band students and athletes frequently get a 7th period while many other kids don't. Well, let me kind of clarify that a little bit. What we do have is a 7-period school day, and we guarantee 6 classes. Now, as Mr. Wright there said, we don't have the space and the ability to offer every kid 7 periods. We would not have enough classrooms. That's a very expensive prospect too, when you think about it. We have about 60 to 70 different classes going every period, and a section costs money because you have the costs of the teacher, of the classroom, of the programs and things that we buy for it. But if you put a rough number on each section, it's about $20,000 to $25,000 per section. So if you had 60 sections at $20,000, that's $1.2 million. That's for each site. That would be a commitment of $7 or more million for the district on top of what we're already doing. That's a pretty expensive prospect. So that's one of the reasons why we can't simply do that. The other reason you have a 7-period day, but only 6 classes, is it really does actually help people get the choices that they make. When you have more options and choices to pick classes in, and more space to put them in, you can actually have a better chance of getting those classes. So think of it like an airline flight. If you're like, I will leave anytime, I'll take any seats, I don't care if it's a direct flight or 5 different stops, you have a million options. But if you say, I can only leave between 7 and 7:30 in the morning, I only want a nonstop, it has to be first class, and you start to run out of options, you start to not get everything that you want. So that's one of the reasons why we do it that way. But just also to let you know, athletes don't get a 7th period. They don't all automatically get that. So I want to be very clear about that one. What they do get is they get a PE credit for participation in sports. So they might be enrolled in 6 classes. So if they are able to, and they want the PE credit this way, they can sign up to get the PE credit by playing the sport. They do have to go through a rigorous set of criteria to make sure that they qualify. They can't come out for it one day and then quit the next day and get it. They have to be the whole season. They have to participate, but they don't get a 7th period. The classes there's students that usually do get a 7th period are classes like music or AVID or our EL classes or even special ed. They may get a 7th period for a variety of reasons. Sometimes something like AVID requires you to have an AVID class. So in order to get your other 6 classes, we have to add that 7th period, which is the AVID class plus your 6 normal periods. Or again, EL or special ed might be having some support classes that they need, which are extra and above. So they need to get a 7th one. Music is one of those things that we have a commitment to keep our music programs lively and robust. And sometimes music kind of, you got to be in more than one band, or it takes a couple different classes for you to get through what you're doing. So those are the ones really that get it. But and in reality, everybody can get a 7th period. What we normally do, though, is we go through the whole scheduling. We give everybody their 6 classes. We guarantee that everybody has their choices. And then if there's classes left over, space left over, we will allow you to take that 7th period. So for instance, if you put Java as your 7th period class, chances are you're not going to get that as a 7th period because Java fills up and goes away. But if you put art as your 7th period class, there are art classes that are available, and we might be able to put you in that as a 7th period. So again, it is open to everybody. There are some very specific reasons we give to it. We don't give it to everybody, though, right off the bat, because of cost, because of resources, and just because it just wouldn't simply work with the schedule. So I hope that explains it a little bit more. This is why I got confused. I got my slides out of order, so sorry about that. That should be out there. That should have been up earlier, but I moved that other slide from Mr. Wright, so I screwed myself up. Sorry about that. Question was, when will we see the new bell schedule for next year? And so just so that for maybe folks out there who don't know what's going on, starting next school year, the 22-23 school year, there is a new California state law that says all high school classes can start no earlier than 8:30 in the morning. This goes back to that science about how older students need sleep, and they need to be able, they sleep later, and their circadian rhythms and all that kind of stuff. But again, the law has been made that we have to move the start of class till 8:30. We are in the process of gathering feedback and input from a variety of sources. I had sent out a survey this week for your students to fill out, for our folks to take a look at. There have been different parent groups that have been asked for their input. Our staffs are looking at input. And so we're trying to come up with the best schedule that we can, given the parameters that we have and some of the legal requirements that we have. We then have a vote across the district, and the school board approves it, and that has to happen by the 15th of March. And so to get it to the school board and get it approved. And that also helps us, as you heard Mr. Wright say, to build the master schedule so that we can definitely understand what we're looking at, and we need to know what that schedule is going to look like. People were asking, would we be able to see this before we make our choices for classes? And you won't be able to see it because March 15th is after that due date of the first round there. But I will be having another plug for the PTSA. There's a general meeting on the 16th. I'm going to be one of the guest speakers there, and I can talk to you because it will have just been released, and I can talk to you and answer your questions then. But you will be able to see what the master schedule looks like. I'm sorry, the bell schedule looks like when we do your April course verification process that Mr. Wright was talking about. So you won't see it in the beginning, you will see it a little bit later. Questions about the mask mandate? Obviously, they've had a lot of change in that just in the last few days here. But on Monday of this week, Governor Newsom came out and said California is moving away from requiring to recommending indoor masks as of 3/11. And so what that looks, we sent out an email just on the 1st stating here's what we're going to do. Just to be clear about it so that everyone's on the right page, we are still requiring masks through March 11th. So on that Friday, March 11th, students will be planning on wearing their masks indoors all the way through. Okay. We don't have class on the 14th because it's a no school day, and the 15th is when we start back up again. So there we're going to be moving from required to recommended. So again, we highly suggest that people still wear their masks. We still think it's a safe thing to do, but we also know that there are lots of things out there that are helping protect us, such as high vaccination rates, our testing, our HVAC system, and people are at that. The experts are saying it's time to start moving forward. So we're going to be working with them. And so, what that means is until the 11th, indoor masks still must be happening. Indoors means whether it's a classroom, an office, a hallway, a restroom, a public space, except for the cafeteria during brunch and lunch. Those are the indoor spaces. Like right now, I'm inside a room. I don't have my mask on, but that's because I have an office with its own HVAC system and the door shut. So if someone was to walk in the room, then I would put my mask on. If I was to walk out of this room, I'd put my mask on. That's up into the required up in the 11th. After that, it becomes recommended. And so, again, as we said, masks are definitely effective in stopping or slowing the spreading. So we would like to make sure that people, have the option to continue doing that. Maybe asked to do that in certain classes, just because there are people who have immunocompromised systems or that have family members. So we just ask that people be respectful of that. And work with each other to try and keep each other safe. But please note that if numbers do go back up, the mask mandate would get reinstated. One thing I didn't write on here, which I should have written on here, is that outdoor, as of right now, outdoor mandate is gone. So students are not required to wear their masks outside, but they are recommended to do so. And to be honest, what we're seeing is the majority of kids are still wearing their masks out there. It doesn't look any different than it did before. Maybe a few more aren't wearing it during there, but we'll see what the difference is when people go in. But right now, there's not been an issue going inside classes. I just want you to be aware too that testing is still available. So that is something we'll still be providing, and that's an important part of making sure we're doing what we are and staying safe. So that's where we are with the mask mandate. It is going away as of March 11th. It is going to be recommended, not required, and we do recommend that people wear their masks. There was a question about saying, I keep seeing messages about junior prom, but none of them say when it is. School calendar doesn't have it either. When is it being held? So here's for all you folks out there. Junior prom is going to be April 8th. Time frame is 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. And senior ball is going to be a month later, a little more than a month later, but May 20th, also from 8 to 11. Tickets tend to go on sale 2 to 3 weeks before the event. So again, you won't be seeing these, they haven't gone on sale yet, so you haven't missed anything. But I'd keep your ear and eye out for some announcements on that in the middle of March or towards the end of March there. Wanted to just also point out that we've been having some issues with student behavior in the IHub. And so we've been trying to re-message to folks what the appropriate behavior is in the IHub. IHub is kind of a unique building in that it's not like any others on our campus, and that there is space for student collaboration and students to be during some of those open periods. That was something that was very important to our community and to our staff, to have spaces for kids to be able to work when they have open periods or when they're not in class. But again, kids, sometimes lines get blurry a little bit and they weren't behaving and they were distractions from classes. So we've been making some announcements. We want to clarify that the iHub is for quiet academic activities. It's not for hanging out and goofing around with your friends. We are asking that people not eat in there even during brunch or lunch because it becomes very messy. It is an academic space. There are plenty of places to eat outside or the cafeteria or something like that. And we really ask that students do not distract classes that are in session or try to get the attention of their students or goof around out there in any way, because there's big windows and people can look in. So again, you might hear us talking about that. You might hear your students talking about that. But again, your help in getting kids to understand that there are time and places for some of those behaviors, and that iHub is not that place. So want to keep the building as effective and nice looking as we can. That brings us to our final slide, which is the important dates. So again, this week, course selection has begun. Starting the week after, March 7th, it'd be the Battle of the Classes. It's a big spirit activity, so that's a lot of fun for the second semester. As I mentioned, the 14th is no school that day. It's a teacher work day, so some of us will be here on campus, but kids get to stay home, 3-day weekend. March 16th is a community college night. It's a district-wide program. It's going to be on Zoom. It's a very usually heavily populated and attended event, but it's on Zoom and it'll still be there. But a good chance to go out there for those folks who are looking at community college as an option after high school. It's a good place to get information. There's also the same night there is that PTSA meeting, which I mentioned earlier, and I will be one of the guest speakers there. So I'm happy to answer your questions about that and other subjects. I mentioned earlier too, that April 1st is the multicultural event that PTSA and ASB are putting on. Again, they're looking for some volunteers. So please go on the website, go to the PTSA volunteers page, and you'll be able to find some ways to sign up. You mentioned junior prom is there on the 8th. Spring break coming up on the middle there of April. April 18th is that week if you're planning your vacations. And then senior ball there on 5/20. And pretty soon we're going to start having information about our graduation ceremonies and all that kind of fun stuff that's going to be happening. So getting close to the end of the year here. But again, thank you to Jeff Wright for coming in and answering some questions for us and giving some information about the important course selection process. Thank you for sending in your shout outs, your recognitions, your questions, your suggestions. Please keep those coming. That's what helps run these videos. So looking for more input from you, and I hope you and your family have a great and restful weekend. Take care.